Let's start immediately from a story which involves Uber. Uber, in fact, today hit a road bump. The European Union's top court, in fact, ruled that the company is a transportation company. The ruling will translate into tougher rules on licensing and employee benefits for the ride-sharing app. In fact, we're not sure we can still call it like that. Here is more. Take a look at this.
For a company that deals with making commuting simple, 2017 has been one rough ride for Uber. It has faced sexual harassment allegations, a string of high-profile exits, including that of founder Travis Kalanick, and has been accused by Google of stealing its self-driving technology. On Wednesday, the EU's top court decided to end Uber's year on the note it started on. It ruled that Uber is not just a ride-sharing app, but a transportation company. Uber argued that it's a digital platform, but in its verdict, the European Court of Justice said Uber is a service in the field of transport because its purpose is, quote, to connect by means of a smartphone application and for remuneration, non-professional drivers using their own vehicle with persons who wish to make urban journeys. The big takeaway is this: Uber is not a technology company but a cab service. Uber says the ruling won't change things for it in most EU countries because it already operates under transportation law, but the ruling could have additional ramifications. Uber could now face national regulation in up to 28 member states of the European Union. This might translate into dealing with local governments on rules and licensing requirements. Additionally, it will have to treat its drivers as employees and offer associated benefits. Outside of Europe too, it's not exactly been a joyride for Uber. In India, which is one of the company's largest markets, it recently settled a lawsuit with a woman who was raped by a company driver. Additionally, state and municipal governments are struggling with regulating its services. The ruling in Europe could work as a benchmark for India too. Bureau Report, WION.
And joining us for more on this story, we have our correspondent Aisha Sindhu from the newsroom. Thank you very much, Aisha, for joining us, and good evening. Is this the end of the largest transportation company which actually did not own a single car?
That's a good question, Daniele. I think it's a little less dire than that. Uber says that as of now, as far as Europe goes, it already operates under transportation law. But it all started back in 2014 when the taxi union in Barcelona accused Uber of playing dirty in many ways because it was not playing by the rules that many other cab services played. Since then, we've seen multiple ramifications for Uber across Europe. In fact, in London too, in the United Kingdom, it's been facing allegations of, taking over the market in many ways without really playing by the rules. This ruling basically levels the ground, it levels the playing field, with Uber going beyond just being a digital platform, but really speaking a company that performs or provides services. It has to meet certain standards within the European Union. This will involve, of course, there's no one overarching transportation policy for the EU. Each country has its own, rules and regulations, its own processes when it comes to licensing. And of course, with the fact that now drivers, chauffeurs who work with Uber aren't really speaking a third-party associations with the company, but actually employees. It's going to mean that Uber is going to have to consider benefits such as overtime. It's going to have to think of holiday and also looking at things like emergency leave and being compensated thereof. So it definitely changes the rules of engagement between the European Union and Uber. It depends now to see how exactly this is going to have a ripple effect when it comes to other countries like the United States, where it's already dealing with situations, and countries like India as well.
And Asha, how do you see these developing for us, the commuters? Because this will obviously be more expensive for the company if they have to hire and provide social security and leaves and all the rights that a worker should and must have. But that ultimately will perhaps result in more money we will pay for Uber.
Absolutely, Daniele, you hit the nail on the head, because at the end of the day, the reason you and I choose Uber, let's say, is because we don't end up having to pay certain taxes, certain fees, unless, of course, you're coming out of the airport where the taxis that are parked there need to pay a certain parking charge, etc. But you're right, this is going to have ramifications in terms of the fee structure as well, because with licensing agreements, with other regulatory requirements needing to be filled by Uber, it is going to have an end result, an end effect on the consumer as well. Luckily for you and me, we live in India where the rules, so to speak, are still a bit more fluid. There's no overarching policy as far as regulation for taxi companies goes. When it comes to India, these are basically determined state-based and municipal government-based. So we're safe, but of course, if you're going on vacation to Italy, you might have to deal with it.
I definitely will have to deal with it. Italy, for instance, Aisha, is one of those countries where Uber is facing problems because it cannot operate exactly due to this reason, because every single taxi driver in Italy has to have a license, which is tremendously costly and might take years. Thank you very much.